Warning: this video will contain spoilers for Dead Rising 1 and Dead Rising 4. Dead Rising 4 is nothing like the previous Dead Rising games, and here is why. Now, before the game was even released, the biggest alarm bell for me was the fact that the studio director, Joe Nichols, the executive producer, Bryce Cochran, and the art director, Jeff Coates, were all working on a Dead Rising game for the first time. Before the game was released, it was linked to the hashtag #FrankIsBack. However, his look, sound, clothing, and general personality were all changed, leaving his name to be the only similarity. This game could have been so much more. It could have been filled with Easter eggs, references, and jokes to the previous Dead Rising games. It could have had Chuck Green from Dead Rising 2 and Nick Ramos from Dead Rising 3 all return. Seeing the three Dead Rising protagonists all work and interact together would have been one of the most perfect choices and the best way to celebrate 10 years of Dead Rising. However, this is what we got. A poorly made, unloved, Christmas-themed cash grab. In Dead Rising 1, Frank was just an average guy, a photojournalist who went to Willamette to uncover the unknown outbreak that the government were trying to cover. Through the game, you get connected to the characters of Brad, Jesse, Isabella, and Otis. But the important thing is that you cared about the main characters, you cared about the other survivors, and it was painful to watch them die. In this game, the other characters are so forgettable because they have no personality and no backstory. Vic Chu is an unlikable character who has the annoying cliche belief that zombies are still people. Brad Park was in the Last Agent DLC for Dead Rising 3. If you want to see his backstory, you'll have to play the DLC, because there's nowhere in this game. Out of all of the characters in the three previous Dead Rising games, I have no idea why they chose Brad Park to make his return. Now, let's talk about the antagonists in Dead Rising, starting off with Carlito Keys. Carlito's motivation throughout the game is to seek revenge for the destruction of his hometown in Santa Cabeza by turning the entire population of Willamette, Colorado into zombies. In this game, he is basically a terrorist, and all he wants is the truth to be revealed about what the military and government did to him and his family in Santa Cabeza. The antagonist in Dead Rising 4 is named Calder. He is a zombie in an exosuit, and that's it. He hates Frank for whatever reason and has nothing going for him except for the fact that he has a pretty cool looking design. In Dead Rising 1, you and Brad fight Carlito through the entirety of the game. The game is practically centered around you trying to stop Carlito from his acts of terrorism. In Dead Rising 4, there are no interactions between Frank or Calder until the end of the game in one boss battle. Now let's talk about my favourite part of the Dead Rising games, the Psychopaths. In Dead Rising 1, 2, 2 off the record, and 3, the Psychopaths have been side mission bosses who are survivors who went crazy during the outbreak, from either a daughter or granddaughter being killed, a lack of trust towards others, or just being insane. The Dead Rising games always had fun and puzzle-like boss mechanics, where you had to find the patterns and predict the enemy's next move. The Psychopath weapons have been melee, ranged, and vehicles, giving every fight a refreshing feeling. However, the creators of Dead Rising 4 decided to remove this tradition entirely. The Psychopaths were replaced with Maniacs, which are enemies who are just there for no reason and have no motivation for their actions. This was a pretty bad and stupid move on their behalf, as the feature did not have a reason to be removed and was not replaced with something more fun or interesting. Honestly, whenever I play Dead Rising 4, it takes me less than 5 minutes to find a glitch. On that note, I will be uploading a giant compilation of glitches and all-around lazy development in Dead Rising 4 very soon. And also, how unacceptable is this? When you shoot in Dead Rising 4, sometimes the number of bullets don't count down. How are we meant to have faith in a Dead Rising sequel if the creators can't even program a simple countdown? And not to mention, when you're close to any wall, you can actually turn the camera so it faces through the wall and you can look into the world. Before Dead Rising 4 was released, Joe Nichols said in an interview that the escort missions in previous games weren't worth it because you didn't get anything in return.
Like, one big thing about Dead Rising is you see a lot of, like, people you have to go save and join your party. Are we going to see more of that in this one?
Yep, and it's better. I mean, I'm making the perfect game, right? It's better because before you'd help a survivor and they go, thanks. You just take off. It's like, well, that wasn't worth it.
And though I do think that the escort missions in previous Dead Rising games were frustrating at times, you got prestige points, and sometimes they gave you money as a bonus. Now they drop a combo weapon, run off, and that's the end of it. You're not actually meant to follow them, however, and when you do, this is when the game doesn't know what to do with itself. The creators claim to keep what is core to Dead Rising, but what is core to Dead Rising is the time limits, psychopaths, and the fact that anything can be used as a weapon. It removes the time limit so you can explore a glitch-filled and uninteractive environment. This game is a huge waste of time and, more importantly, money. And on the subject of money, you have to pay for the ending of this game. This game ends on a cliffhanger and will be resolved in a $15 DLC. Instead of wasting your money on Dead Rising 4, I highly recommend buying the remastered collection of Dead Rising, and I also love the third game as well. This is by far my least favourite game in the series and the most disappointing game I've ever played. This game had a lot of potential and it missed the mark completely. Thank you guys so much for watching part 1 of this video, and part 2 will be released very shortly, where I'll be discussing and comparing Frank West from Dead Rising 1 and Dead Rising 4.